Hey guys, Bolt here, and we're here for the first of several of these things. So what we're doing with Nancy Drew is, I'm gonna redo some of the all the summaries until like the Mystery 21. Depending on 20th, I might leave 20. Um, but basically, I'm gonna put these guys in batches of 5 from now on. So mysteries 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, 16 through 20, and then we'll go on from 26 onward. Um, so we're gonna go over the remaster of the first 2, 3, 4, 5 here in this one. And then to kind of like give myself time in between these summaries, because these summaries do take a long time. And actually, this was supposed to release on Monday. This wasn't just like a hey, Yu-Gi-Oh was available. Like, yes, that was cool to release it on Monday, but the issue that came up was Mystery 3 was a lot of reading, and it required me to kind of look up more stuff in terms of why the mystery was why. Because everything else was pretty, like, it was dialogue inside characters, speech bubbles. Mystery 3 just took forever. That's what I was going to say, is to kind of space apart the summaries, I'm going to be doing some HD remasters of my playthroughs through some of the first few. Definitely these first 5 are going to be getting one, just because I dilly-dallied, I believe, in these first few. Not to mention 3 took forever. Not to mention some of this stuff fell on Bolt. Sadly, we don't have anything for Stay Tuned, and we can't do anything past the last one I played. I think it was the Vincent. But we'll see which ones I play again. But basically, I want to kind of like do them in like power playthroughs, where it's kind of like I'm finishing it all in one go. I know for sure I can get Secrets Can Kill in one go, because usually I see a lot of people beat it within an hour or two. If you know what you're doing, you can beat it in an hour. But anyways, so why I'm doing these remasters is in Mystery 25, I did a setup in a writing form that I really liked, and I really want to go back to a lot of these and redo it to where it doesn't feel like, hey, blah, 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 blah. No, it's just like, okay, here's the mystery, here's the characters. So actually, here's how it's going to go. There will be timestamps on these videos where it's going to go the gameplay / updates, my thoughts on the game, the summary, which is usually the start of the setup of the mystery, the characters, kind of what they're doing, why they're there. A lot of them I've realized that yes, there's going to be some suspicion on all of them, but realistically, they're such simple characters, and like it is very, very rare that they actually have anything to do with the mystery itself. So I'm gonna like update like, hey, this is what they're doing, this is why they're here. Then we go into closing the case, which is kind of like, okay, here's why the mystery is happening the way it is. Here's who did it, and I also every now and again I'll add like, hey, this person did this afterwards. Like, hey, after the mystery is solved, here's what happened to these people. So, because these are the first 5 mysteries, these are the mysteries that set everything up. So versus a lot of the like later mysteries, the setup was very similar, and these first 5 are the ones that gave me kind of like a what would you call it? Kind of like a PTSD for the it's locked. It's locked. That's what I was trying to find. Is that particular thing. And then, of course, these are also the games that started out with, where is it?
What if you could clean your retainer?
I don't care. Okay, yeah, this. That brings me so much, like, oh, you guys, I don't know why it was. But yeah, that particular one has given me so much joy, and like, if I heard it, I'm like, you're playing some Nancy Drew? But alright, let's actually get into like some of the general stuff that it gives up. So there's some compasses, some time, like a watch you can see. There's the inventory. Um, there's kind of like your dialogue box. I think the stack of books is the most iconic of the series, where it's just like new game, continue, second chance, that stuff. The stacks of books. Um, and then of course just generally uh, the junior and senior detective. The very first one actually had a third difficulty, which was actually weird on it. The first one was also weird too because I never, aside from when I was like very young, when we first started the Nancy Drew, I kind of have a little bit of a memory now that I saw it. But they did a rotoscope 2D animation for the first one, which I am so sad that they did not return to that style. While the second one introduces the now classic 3D style, the issue with the 3D style is it makes me think of Robot Chicken at points, where it's just like very doll like, and it makes no sense that you had this beautiful 2D animation that it looked like it was rotoscoped. That is so much easier than trying to make it look realistic. Um, and like I understand these are like, once you start getting into some of these, it does get kind of like gruesome, so a 2D animation wouldn't fit. But it's just like it looked so good for what it was. Trying to find the other ones. Trying to see if there's any. I know the first one and the second one introduced the like they show you a map and you can travel around on the map. Um, and the second one is generally kind of like the setup of your normal gameplay style. The first one was more of talking to people with some stuff. The second one introduced a little bit more of the puzzles and the like generally like investigation. Where three, I think it really pushed in something that I kind of wish it didn't, but it's gonna happen eventually. Is the third one really introduced the reading, the like, hey, you need to read this, learn about this stuff. I know another thing that the third one introduced was that you need to call on your friends and other people you know to really move forward with the story because they know certain things that Nancy can't find in the environments. Um, so to move forward, so basically the first and second one is mostly the setup of the look and the ideals of the thing. And the second one introduced more, like got more used to it. The third one was mostly the one of like, hey, use phone calls. There's gonna be a lot more reading. The third one also introduced the alarm clock aspect. That way, there's actually a day cycle and stuff. Because if you there's time sensitivity events in the third one. Like, hey, this person shows up at this time. This person's gone at this time. Another one that I don't think I've seen on the other four, because like they technically had like the start of it, like the third one was the only one that had like a show of the mansion with like lightning hit it, making it look haunted and stuff. Well, the fourth one was more kind of like the blizzard. The second one was more of like the environment. The fifth one was kind of like the start of the case. So it's kind of like the third one had its own special intro that made it sound very Scooby-Doo-ish. The fourth one, let's see, that was Royal Tower. Not really much in that one. The Royal Tower had a lot of what I love about Nancy Drew. Same with the fifth one. But realistically, there wasn't a lot of new concepts in these first 5 games. These were the games that set the ground for it. Moving on to Secrets and Kill as my thoughts. This kind of covers most of your basics of the game concepts, the puzzles, the conversations. I forgot what I said there. And like the death trap segment where it's just like you're always like if you don't get out in a certain time you die. The first game introduces that. There's always that final confrontation with who did it. Not much to say in terms of this first one because it's very bare bones. I wish they did more of the 2D animation. Moving on quickly to the summary, to the setup of the mystery. Nancy is in college years. She's going on she's taking a semester off to go see her aunt. This is taking place in Florida. A murder in a nearby high school takes place, with Nancy being the very young and good detective. Basically, the aunt. I think the aunt is like a librarian or a secretary, and she gives the good word for Nancy to go in undercover. That way, they can figure stuff out. Moving on to characters, we have Daryl Gray. He's the student council president. He also works as a shorthand cook at a nearby diner. He's the one who discovers the body and is our contact for the mystery. We have Hector Hulk Sanchez. He's the high school linebacker. You have Howell Tanaka. He's a Japanese exchange student. You have Connie Watson, who's a trainee / black belt in judo. You have Jake Rogers, who's our victim, who passed away. And then you have Mitch Dillon, who's a drug dealer. So I didn't really put a lot of details into this first one because a lot of the stuff that has to do with the characters has to do with this closing the case area. So really quickly, closing case, Connie had won a men's judo tournament in disguise for college money. So she won not in the policy of the tournament. So there's that. Jake blackmailed her into being his girlfriend to not give away that she cheated there. Hector got injured, and to save his career because he's going to be possibly going into college through scholarships because of his athleticism. He takes steroids. He steals them from a pharmacy. But Jake catches him in the act, and basically he's like, you're going to be my bodyguard / the guy that says don't mess with me. Hal is basically one of your generic, I'm sorry, but it's very Asian of the parents. I think it's something that a lot of cultures that aren't American are kind of like, hey, you're here for this career or this high bar, you need to do this or you completely dishonor us. Because we gave you this opportunity, you better reach for it. And to kind of keep up with the amount of stress, he sadly has to do plagiarism, which Jake finds out, and he basically says, "Hey, I'm going to say that you did plagiarism if you don't, unless you go ahead and do my homework for me." So basically, Jake is killed because he does a lot of blackmail. Um, Daryl, our informant slash contact, he actually needs cash for college because his well, I'll talk about that in the remaster. It's talked more about in the remaster, but he really needs cash, and he runs into a drug dealer, Mitch, and he'll become a drug runner. Um, but because he ended up kind of like getting in it with it too much, he kind of gets stuck in that kind of um, dark career. But Jake kind of learns about it, blackmails him, um, and he goes to blackmail Mitch because he's the one making a lot more of the money because he's more up the ladder. But of course, if you know about a drug operation and you're trying to blackmail them with information, it's just easier to cap you. So, so yeah, it turns out Mitch killed Jake to kind of silence him. We are able to talk Daryl, and it's not confirmed until Mitch shows up, but Connie, into basically sticking out and catching Mitch in like the in the whole act. Jake is able to meet up with him. We catch him. He goes to try to pull a gun on Jake, and Connie comes in, kicks it, but we're able to put him at gunpoint. That way he can get arrested. Going on to the remaster real quick, before we kind of go into the closing of the case, slash kind of the what happened with that one. So the remaster introduced Detective Beach, who's an undercover cop. He's the only person that's really added to this. So everything else is pretty normal. Daryl is no longer a contact because we have a cop. The 3D style, phone, and other modern updates are given in this one, which kind of screws it up a little bit because it's kind of like Nancy having a cell phone doesn't happen until later because it doesn't become more normal until later. So we're saying that in the remaster, Secrets Can Kill happens later in the timeline, which makes no sense because you need a young Nancy for this undercover operation, but whatever. Characters get smaller details in their dialogue and what they're doing. Like, I think the biggest one is that Daryl is the son of a bankrupt politic. And that's really why he's going for the drug runs. And then the only other thing is like some puzzles get added. The closing statements for this one, the closing of the case is here, is that almost the same story as the original. However, Daryl's selling some plans. So instead of being a drug runner, he takes plans from his father's company to Mitch, who gives that to Detective Beach, who turns out to be someone who's not even... He's basically someone who, like, weasel his way in. Mitch still kills Jake, but Detective Beach is kind of like our final confrontation here. And thank God our librarian slash secretary aunt has a booby trap safe. So basically the entire thing is that Jake had came across a journal that has like all the receipts of the transactions with Detective Beach. Going on to like what happened to everybody, Connie turns in the trophy. The competition actually updates saying, hey, we'll include women next time, because you still did pretty good. So it makes it a unisex I think that's what it is, unisex, where it's both. Hector makes good on. Basically, he goes back and says he'll pay for the damages he caused in stealing the product. Um, and then Hal, he's able to get into college because no one blackmails him, so he's able to use that to go on. I kind of didn't understand what they were trying to explain there, but I think Daryl and Connie get together in the end. But no matter what, Connie's helping him because in the original, Daryl gets shot. So I don't know if anything like that happens in the remaster. Moving on to Stay Tuned for Danger. My thoughts real quick that it is similar to Secrets, but in my opinion, the mystery has better structure just because it's kind of like this has so little, but it's just the idea of a Nancy Drew game versus this one where it's like, okay, we can do this, this, and this. We can add like some more talking points. We can add these little things for Nancy to do. But real quickly, the summary. Let's see here. This is happening like very right after the Secrets Can Kill because it looks like her aunt was like, "Hey, my niece just did this again. Would you like to like get help here?" And it's because her aunt's friend Maddie Jensen, a actor in Light of Our Love, which is a TV show, gets Nancy to investigate her co-star Rick Arlen's death threats. Nancy goes to her aunt's apartment, rented out by Maddie in New York, to kind of set up shop and kind of look around the studio to see what's happening. Quickly, the characters. We have, let's see, Lillian Wisser. The director, she dated Rick, but it was used to get to like others. Like he basically said, "I'm gonna use you that way I can get closer to this other woman that has other connections and stuff." William Pappas, he's just the producer. We really just talked to him very quickly. You have Rick, he's just huge flirt, huge ego. You have Maddie, who dated Rick before Lillian. But unlike her, they actually ended on good terms. Let's see, you have Millie Stratham. She's the prop lady slash the owner of the network. You have Dwayne Powers. He is Maddie and Rick's agent. Well, Rick's ex-agent. So he only has Maddie, but he also gives like extras and stuff. He used to be an actor with Maddie, but turned to be an agent. But because of Rick leaving, it like prompt everybody else to kind of leave him, making him, even as an agent, start to dry up on business. And then the last person is Officer Ralph, but he's mostly just the guard that makes everything like secure in the facility. Closing the case here. Powers blames Rick for his ruined career in business, so he sends death threats and wants to take him out. He's like huge. He's just a guy who got like completely. He's got a hatred for Rick. He threatens Lillian for still loving him, and Nancy for snooping around. But thanks to like, basically we see a puzzle we did. We're able to like get people to get out of there. He gets arrested by Ralph. Lillian makes her first film. Ralph and Maddie, their characters get married, and there's a hint that they possibly got back together. But realistically, this was like a short and simple situation. Moving on to Message in a Mansion. My thoughts with this one is, while reading is a lot more in this one, the puzzles are pretty nice to have a lot more of. This one at least um, has more decent people to talk to. So in the first one, it's all like people who, like, they've been blackmailed. There's been a murder, so they're kind of like uptight. While the second one is all, aside from um, Maddie, it's kind of like everyone's on an ego boosted, and it's like, yes, we're in New York, but man, people are talking way too high collar. It's like, this third one is more like, hey, everybody's here to do their job, do a project together, and make things work out. So it feels like a better environment. And then, oh yeah, and then luckily no one's being rude or hitting on Nancy here. The summary of this one is a hometown friend of Nancy's, Hannah, requests for her to help her friend Rose Green with some renovation work on a Victorian mansion. Rose is planning to turn it into a bed and breakfast. However, several misfortunate problems are arising that might stop it from opening. I forgot which place this is in. I thought I said it somewhere. I think we're going through the states because it was like Florida, then they went to New York. I think this was in. Oh no, this was San Francisco, so Chicago. So moving on to the characters. Realistically, Rose have no reason to be talked to. It's basically, she says, here's your task, go and do it. But her business partner and an ex-drama coach from River Heights, the town home of Nancy, Abby, she's really into the paranormal, and she really wants the mansion to take on a haunting theme to sell and market. You have Charlie the handyman. He's in college. He's also homeless and has been sleeping in a secret room in the mansion. But he does come clean to Rose. The last person of interest is Lewis Chandler. He's an antique dealer that specializes in the Victorian era. He can price and refurbish items found in the mansion, and he also goes finds things that make sense in buying and putting in the mansion for a cheap price. Going on to the closing case, one, there's the great earthquake of 1906 in San Fran. Had a lot of houses burned down, which made records beforehand almost impossible to know and trace back. You have Lizzie Applegate, also known as E. Valdez. She was an actress in the late 1800s to early 1900s. I said late 1800s to early 1900s. She pushed the envelope for women and what they can do in society. She was also the owner of the mansion. She basically want to make it into a hotel, and she was really into like Chinese puzzle box kind of stuff. So she wanted that hotel to be a Chinese puzzle box. You know, puzzles, secret passageways, make it like an exploration for people when they come visit. And then there's her husband, Diego Valdez, also known as El Diablo, who was the person who did the great Christmas robbery of 1878, which he had Lizzie, his wife, take part in and place the gold that they got from it in the hotel. Both of them were very like, take from the people that corrupted the system and all that, and make it easier for others is basically what I think a lot of their personality was. In Lizzie's will, though, her estate was supposed to go to Diego, so it's very possible that he died or like was on the run from the law because someone found out about him. But it's not really understood. It's either a death or disappearance, and because he's not there to claim the estate, um, it gets liquefied and given to the ladies protection and relief society. And then Lewis learns that the hotel about the hotel's history and wanted to scare Rose and Abby from getting like, hey, there's something going on. All this stuff is just too bad to keep putting money into. Sell cheaply to somebody that I know or myself, and they go and get the gold. So, very Scooby-Doo concept with this one. So the very first one, it's kind of like pretty easy because it's like the drug dealer, the guy who's like very odd about a journal. The second one was like, hey, there's a guy who's like not doing very well. Everybody else is doing pretty well in their jobs and stuff. This third one, it's like, okay, everyone's here to do their job. Yes, this person's, bad on their luck, and this person's trying to get stuff. And I think they were trying to say that Abby or Rose could burn down the place or like get insurance from it going bad, which I guess, but it's like literally the guy who knows what everything is worth and has history and like can understand what all this stuff is worth. Of course he's going to be the guy. Moving on to one of my favorites. I think this is Treasure in the Royal Tower. My thoughts of this one is this set my expectations for the games going forward because this is one of my favorite. I had one of the most fun times with this one. And basically it's like if you ain't at least Royal Tower, you ain't worth nothing is basically how I felt. It's like it's very Doctor Who-esque. You can't write off the first and second one because they set the bar, or they made expectations. The third one is like, okay, we're getting into it. We're understanding what we're supposed to do. Fourth one, we know what we're doing, boys. So yeah, this one it's like aside from getting lost here and there, it was a pretty fun game. Summary is when trying to go on trying to go on a ski vacation in Wisconsin, at the Wickford Castle, what did I call? Oh, a nasty blizzard strands Nancy inside. She's still happy to explore the castle with obvious hidden rooms and passageways because there's a tower you can't get into. And there's several, like, literally, like, hey, there was a doorway here in a lot of the corridors. There's also a lot of history here, and she's really into, like, finding as much stuff she can possible. We have Dexter Egan, who's the caretaker. He's a little weird, which is what starts the mystery. It's kind of weird that the caretaker doesn't have contact with the owner, which is friends with Nancy's father, and her name is Christy Lane. What could he be hiding? Moving on to the characters, you have Dexter, which is Wickford, the original owner of the castle. Dexter's the adoptive son of him. So it's like he has connections here. He was disowned, however, because he was convicted of a felony, counterfeiting, and looking for answers is basically his entire thing. It's just like he's trying to find out what Wickford thought of him, or kind of like letters he may have left him for him after he passed away. We have next, which is a French ski instructor who's also he was an Olympic ski person for France, but he kind of beefed it. His name is Jacques Brunet. Um, so he discovered. Apparently, his attachment here is that his great grandfather was the carpenter slash the person who helped. He was a main key part in the dismantling of a tower that got moved to this the cut off tower that got moved into this castle, and he came across a journal that was possibly belonging to the decapitated queen, Marie Antoinette, um, and it could have changed how like the history of France was. So he really wanted to bring it back, but because it was a part of the tower, they didn't know what Wickford knew about it. So it's like, hey, I don't want to be written up or like called upon for stealing something that they knew about. So he returned it, but he made it kind of go down the line, and Jacques is here to kind of like try to find it. I think it's John or something. But basically, he's there because thanks to his beefing it in the Olympics, he needs to kind of like bring up his popularity and kind of make his family more honored because of this. And he really wants his family to be proud of him. He's also got I forgot his girl. He's got a fiance who's an American, who basically, because of all this stuff with him in the Olympics and stuff, they're strained. So it's kind of like he wants this to give them more of a chance to happen. Moving on to Professor Hotchkiss. We know her, we love her, she's annoying, but she's also the funnest part in so many mysteries. This is her introduction mystery. So she is a historian who specializes in French culture. She goes on to get into a lot more stuff. Like, I already have this summary for 26 ready. I'm just needing to do all the way till 30 with that one. But she gets into like Egyptian stuff and all that. So at first she's just into French, but I think she just becomes an overall historian. Similar to Jacques, she wants to get information about the castle and what it could mean for French culture and the history, especially with Marie, who she's really like obsessed with the history of. So Jacques. So with this mystery, Jacques has like a blue medallion that he got from his family. Professor Hotchkiss has a green one she got lent to by her friend. You have Lisa, who's our very last character here. She's a photojournalist, also our tea spieler, and somehow knows a little too much at all times. Like, all of a sudden she knows that this incident happened, that this person did this person said that, this, like, Nancy was over here, she was over there, she got into here. It's like, you know too much, and she's the person who did it. Did it. So, going on to the closing of the case, the closed off tower was used by Marie Antoinette. The library that was vandalized, which is the big mystery section of it. Like, we have to break into it kind of situation. And the library was bought from the family of Jean Leboeuf. He's a revolutionary commander who caught Marie in her escape from France and what ultimately got her beheaded. So Marie also had a tiara, which had a... she doesn't like this tiara. She had a ruby, which we find in... which was in Wickford's possession. He hid it away in his garden. You have the sapphire, which was... I believe that was the medallion Jacques had. We have the emerald, which was lent to Hotchkiss. And then you have a giant, big old diamond to be on top of it all. which is like the treasure at the end. And it turns out that basically Lisa, before Nancy got here, was coming to get, like, collecting the stuff to kind of get into it. She was halfway through solving the mystery, and she just couldn't figure out the last little bit because there was the hidden away medallion. Um, so she kind of let it give it back to Nancy Drew. That way she can kind of figure out the rest, and then basically take the goods for herself once this mystery was figured out. Kind of getting some in thoughts to these characters. Dexter was given a note by Wickford. That way it's like, hey, your adoptive father still cared. He didn't have hard feelings. Oh, I keep forgetting. Did I say it? Christy makes him a business partner. And then going into Hotchkiss, she's given permission to release an American translation of Marie's journal that Jacques' great grandfather found. The journal, the 3 medallions, and the diamond are returned to France to be a part of an exhibit. Jacques, because he helped in the finding of it, he's given credit, and because of that, because it's such a big part of the French culture, the family get honored and become a very big part of the topic of the town. And of course, my boy gets the girl. Now to finish it up, we do have the final scene. This is my favorite of the gameplay of all of the games so far. All the way to 25. Best one. So it's not my favorite environment. That's easily going to Shadow Ranch. But final scene has some of the funnest gameplay of the entire series. I think just because it's got like magicians and stuff, and it's got more minigame-esque than puzzles. Kind of going into the summary real quick. Nancy visits a friend, Maya Nguyen. I did not get her last name. I forgot to give myself a translation there. It's in St. Louis, Missouri. Going to go see a movie as it's premiering in the Royal Palladium for its last screening. The theater has been up for a century, and even was, because it was before the movies were coming out, it was also a stage for performers like Houdini, and a lot of people historically want to keep it collective, including the town's preserving society, but in 3 days' time, it's going to be demolished, and there's even like a activist rally going across it. And Maya, being a part of the press, has a press pass to get into interviewing with Brady Armstrong, the star of the upcoming premiering film. But she gets kidnapped, and over a call to Nancy is a threat from the inside saying that if the demolishing doesn't get stopped, that Maya will be going with the building. Going into our characters, you have Armstrong. He's mostly looking for his own business move. Basically, it's like he gets overshadowed by his agent, and he gets none of his own like mentality of what he wants to do. So it's like, hey, I kind of want to do my own move in business. You have Joseph Hughes, who's the caretaker. He worked there for years, and it's been a while. So he has an attachment to the movie theater. He says his like idea was to move out with his brother and make a movie theater in their little town there. Nicholas Falcone, a Had It activist. His grandmother helped in the artwork creation of the theater. And, what did it say here?
The grandmother was never paid by J.J. Thompson, the the original owner of the theater. Moving on to Simone, Brady's or Armstrong's agent. Um, will do anything for clout. That is her entire character. She basically will sabotage the case and the investigation and evidence just for clout, and also to kind of get Armstrong's popularity up, being the hero of this case. Moving on to closing statements here. Brady Armstrong is actually B. Thompson, so he's actually the great nephew of J.J. Thompson. So he has ownership of the theater and is actually the reason why it's going to get demolished, because he wants to demolish it for a themed restaurant that he calls, I think, Tinseltown. Well, no, it was like Tinsel World or something like that. So kind of like, I think it'd be based on like movie history and stuff. But the entire thing that Nancy's trying to find is that J.J. Thompson was not able to pay Houdini when he came to perform, so he gave him 50% ownership of the theater. And even though it was only for a few months of ownership before Houdini died, we get in contact with the great cousin by marriage that had like documents that was given to like a huge collection, historical collection. You call them, they're able to find out like bits and pieces of documents, which you're able to find out thanks to those documents, and like other stuff that's surrounding the theater, is that Nicholas, the activist, his grandmother actually had was given the Houdini half ownership, and at the very end, so Nicholas is able to stop the demolition because he has ownership. Brady, because he wants to be known to be nice about it, he gives the Hadit his ownership of the building. I think they say he donates it, so he gets nothing out of it. So Hadit has at least 50%. Nicholas has the other 50%. They have technically, as long as they're working together, have 100% to move forward in the refurbishing and like recreation and to make it preserve the theater. And it turns out that Joseph is not ready to give up on the theater, and is the reason why Maya was kidnapped. He was going to kidnap Brady, but and kind of like get Simone to be like, hey, my actor is in that building. He's gone. High priority. We need to get this demolition stopped. That way it gives the town's historical society the ability to like preserve the building and call it a landmark. But he ended up coming across Maya. He panicked, kidnapped her instead. And because there's activists a part of this, the police don't take it as don't actually take it seriously. But because he treated Maya fairly and like, yes, he did kidnap her, so he's not getting scot-free, but Maya's gonna actually be like, okay, he just did it for this purpose. Yes, I didn't like being manhandled, but it's like, he still treated me nicely. He just went a little too far for this. And the last thing was Simone got her upcoming uppets because there's a wreath that was sent in on day 2, I believe, that was basically to kind of like be a part of the thread of stop the demolition, or this will be a part of someone's like death ceremony. And it's basically her who was like trying to like, hey, press, look at what's happening over here. That way like cameras and reporters are on the scene to kind of like talk to them and have Armstrong be more pushed out in the news. But I think she basically gets like, they don't take her as serious anymore because she did all this stuff, and made this a lot more worse than it originally was, because now evidence was no longer evidence. It was just something to make clout happen. But alright, that took me a little bit longer than I wanted to. But that was it for the first 5 mysteries of Nancy Drew. So next week, to make it easier on myself, we'll be starting with Secrets Can Kill Remastered, and then we'll move on to Message in a Mansion, and then the Treasure in a Royal Tower, and then Final Scene. And then if I look back on the others, I'll be remaking them too. So, of course, I will not be taking down the videos on the channels that they came out of, just because they views and stuff, not to mention my first reaction to the mystery without any of this, like, because I had to look this stuff up. So I know a lot of this stuff, and, like, it's not going to surprise me. Oh, I didn't know it was you. But it makes sense now that I need to go back and kind of redo it. Not to mention my computer runs so much better. You can hear me better. I'm going to try to look into, like, if I'm missing anything in terms of mic or anything, I have to, like, fix it up a little bit to make it more HD tile worthy. But anyways, I'll see you guys next week for actual gameplay of Nancy Drew rather than me describing it. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.